Okay, so we're out in the garage, and this is a 4.5 inch angle grinder. This is a very cheap tool, and I've said, there's times that you want to spend money and get a good tool. This is, I think that's a Menards brand tool shop angle grinder. Normally, absolutely, this is something that if you do any sort of metal work, body work, it's an essential tool. When I bought this, I simply didn't have the cash in my pocket to spend a lot on a tool, and I was in the middle of something, and I needed one. So I got the best I could afford, and it's not great, but it's done the job so far. And I've kind of limped it through all these projects, knowing that if I kill it, I'll go buy a better one. Well, we might be at that point. This is the Spindle Lock button. So the idea here is when you're tightening and loosening that arbor, you press that button down and it locks the spindle. And I've noticed the last couple times using this, I think something broke. So let's see how we can get this apart, and if this is going to be the end of the cheapo die grinder. So this isn't on there tight. Okay, so we got a shield here. Spin that apart. Apologies for the shaky cam. This is just a little work table that I have out in the garage, and it's not real sturdy for the camera shake. Okay, so here's an access plate here. I think we're going to start with that before we take the whole spindle head off of this thing. I have a hunch there's just a drive shaft that comes in here, and then some sort of gearing that flips us around. What do you think? Yeah, let's start here. Grab a little parts bowl. Just buzzing those apart. It's one of those things, I'm trying to be gentle setting that drill down so I don't make you all sick. Kind of nice to be outside, sun's shining, birds are singing. Hopefully we're done snowing. Okay, so there's our drive gear coming off the motor. There's the gear for our spindle. Looks to be in decent shape. And here's what's going to be happening. When we press that button down, the spindle lock is going to engage one of these two dents in that gear, and it just keeps it from turning, right? Truth be told, I mean, the bearings sound good. There's a little bit of slop in it, but it's probably there when it was new. Teeth don't look worn. That's a bit of a gooey mess. You see the drive gear there? So it works kind of like the ring gear in a rear end, right? So when you got to change directions, those meet at a right angle. this is our pin, and I see what happened here. Can you see it? Yeah, not great. Let me kind of degoo that. The pin is supposed to be flat, and it's all ground on that edge. Got a little clip ring in there. A big gooey mess. Okay, hang on. Yeah, so once again, we're in a project where we have to degoo something. I don't think we have to get all this out of here, but I was fighting that spring clip. Couldn't even see it in there. So I'm just going to keep working at this. I'm kind of digging this out, and we'll pack this all back up again when we put it together. But I want to make sure that I can see what we need to see and get that spindle lock exposed. All right, I'm going to continue in the degoo express here, and I'll bring you back in a bit. Well, I think we hit the end of the road here. So as I'm digging through the goo, you know, it's never a good time when you find shrapnel. See that there? See if I can get this to cooperate a little better. You can really focus in and appreciate that. What happened here is I did pop those other screws off and pulled the whole armature out. Brushes are pretty well worn. They're over inside the rest of that. Here's where she died, folks. Those bits that blew up, they broke off the side of this casting. That's half of it, and the other half are those bits that I had in my hand over there, and probably more that's all vaporized and powdered inside there. It blew that whole thing out, and that's aluminum. And this, you can see this is kind of egg-shaped here. That blew out sideways. And more than likely what happened, I can show you this too. Here is the here's the pin. So the idea here is that this sat here in the top, right? And there's a spring underneath it, so it'd come back up, and you'd press that down, lock the spindle. You could change the attachments. Now you see that it's ground off. That should be flat. Nope. But it's a banana. Look at that. Right? Goes over that way. It's all bent. So what likely happened here, and I can tell you, is when you're attaching something to that arbor here, you really want that tight, because these things, they spin fast and they spin hard, and you're not spinning little things. Okay, it's only 4.5 inches, but these, you know, if you're using these flappy discs, you know, it's 40 grit, or, you know, a big wire cup, something like that. And if that decides to take off on you, you're gonna have a bad day. So you're trying to torque that down, and it's really annoying when you're working with something like that, and that the disc gets loose and it starts to jitter and it screws up what you're working on. So I'm sure at some point, as I'm tightening that down, I had the spindle lock down, and I was tightening that and simply overcame what that metal was able to handle. And it bent the pin a little bit, and once that pin bent, put some shear on that and blew the whole side out of it. Yeah, that might be the end of her. Here's the body. Switch is here. That was getting kind of podgy too. It wasn't always engaging. And the brushes are way up in there. Let's just see if that comes apart. Why not? Okay, so clank. Let's get that out of the way. Oh, that's weird. So there's like this plastic spindle cup. It's kind of tough to see. It's right there. See it? And that kind of floats around in there. That's some sort of a plastic bushing. Here's your brushes. One. They're spring loaded. The other one's on the other side here. The other brush. That cup is all kind of chewed up too, so maybe we had a little spindle wobble going on. That's why that armature looks a little dinged up. Yeah. Oh, what else we got? Ep.6 GF30 Orient Wealth. Number 7, other. Oh, we can't recycle that here in town. Well, I think, folks, it's time. See, here's where the switch is. Switch is back in here. It runs up here, and there's this help if I showed you. So the switch is connected here, and you pull that up and it locks. The contact is actually back here because there's no room for it here with the motor. I mean, this is all motor, so it's a remote switch. It's just a lock on, lock off back here. Yeah, I think we're gonna slide this back together. I just got right in the goo. Slide those brushes out of the way. Get this fed back in here. I think, it came with an extra set of brushes, which, it's a nice thought, but the brushes outlasted the casting. So that's where that goes. I'm just going to toss one of these in there. Maybe. Train's going by. Okay, stand by. Okay, so yeah, we're back. Just toss that back in there. I thought momentarily that maybe a guy could kind of pack some JB Weld in there, drill it out, straighten the pin, maybe get something happening. But before I did that, I fired up the internet. So I went there, and here's your answer. See that? A little fuzzy. There you go. $17.65. That is officially not worth our time. You know, I don't like throwing things away. If we can fix it, we can. But for something that's not even 20 bucks, it's time it goes down the river. Maybe I'll get a cordless something. Either one. I don't think I'll find one to use with that, but maybe Milwaukee's got one to go with the 12 volt stuff. Or another corded one. I really don't care. Yep. The death of an angle grinder. So, all right, well, thanks for hanging out. We figured a couple things out anyway, saw how that went together, saw how it blew itself up, and yeah, catch you next time. Peace.